Chairman, thank you for the opportunity to participate. May we live in interesting times. That was an old, allegedly an old Chinese blessing, and more accurately, a curse that seems to be a pronouncement appropriate for the topic of today's hearing. Clearly, there are tough choices ahead as states and municipalities deal with the clear and present danger of fiscal crisis. There is growing evidence that the fiscal house of many states and municipalities are in desperate states. Several questions arise as a takeoff point for this discussion, but an obvious one is what municipalities and states must do to fix it. But that question can't be answered until we understand the cause of the condition. This is where I will comment. I believe that the primary cause of the current condition is the inability to implement reform as a result of actions taken decades ago that empowered government union officials with privileges that are inappropriate for the functions of government. Specifically, I am talking about the granting private sector labor organizations the privilege of monopoly bargaining over government workers. Let's be clear here. This does not mean that government workers don't have the right to join a union and they can't associate. It means about a recognition that right shouldn't be taken away for the right to join and associate. But it does mean that the model that we ascribe to the private sector is completely inappropriate for government. And that's now becoming clear. And I'm in good company with that premise, as we've heard already the testimony of members of Congress citing President Roosevelt's opposition to government bargaining. But he also agrees with George Meany, the new president of the AFL-CIO in 1955, who said it's impossible to bargain collectively with the government. At the February '59 meeting of the AFL-CIO Executive Council, a statement prepared by representatives of the Government Employee Council was endorsed, which included the following. It said, in terms of accepted collective bargaining procedures, government workers have no right beyond the authority to petition Congress, a right available to every citizen. In New York State, the petri dish of government union power, New York City, Democrat Mayor Robert Wagner was advised to break a campaign pledge made to government union officials because granting union monopoly bargaining would grant too much power to union officials and whet their appetites for even more. His advisors told him it would give unions too much sway over elected officials. And Wagner's advisors were right. After the New York City model had been in place for several years, former New York AFSCME union president Victor Gottbaum boasted, "We have the ability to elect our own boss." A New York State court spelled it out more precisely in the years earlier in a case called Railway Mail Associates versus Murphy, in which they opined to tolerate or recognize any combination of civil service employees of the government as a labor organization or union is not only incompatible with the spirit of democracy, but inconsistent with every principle upon which our government is founded. To admit as true that government employees have the power to halt the functions of government unless their demands are satisfied is to transfer to them all legislative, executive, and judicial power. Nothing could be more ridiculous. Fast forward to today, we see dramatic impact of the process which is inconsistent with every principle upon which our government is founded. In the May 2010 Business Insider website published a list of the 9 states most likely to default. The news and analysis-oriented site ranked heavily unionized California, Illinois, Massachusetts, Michigan, Nevada, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, and Wisconsin as the worst default risks. An average of 61% of public sector employees in that 9 states with the worst default risk are under union monopoly bargaining power in 2009. That's overall public unionization of 20% higher than the typical state. In the 9 states with the worst default risk from 1999 to 2009, aggregate private sector jobs fell 4.2%, but state and local government jobs increased by 9%. Not one of the 22 states with the 2009 public sector unionization rate of under 30% was found to be on the Business Insider's most likely to default list. Further, Washington Examiner editor Dave Freddoso recently analyzed the relationship between public sector unionization and state per capita debt. Freddoso found that among the states with fewer than 40% of state and local government workers are unionized, the median per capita state debt in 2007 was $2,238. Among the states between 40 and 60, the median debt was $3,609. But among the states with more than 60% of the state and local government workers unionized with monopoly bargaining laws, the median per capita debt was $6,380. And these are 2007 numbers before we even got to the economic crisis. Excessive spending, taxation, and debt are endemic to governments everywhere. But there are large measurable differences between the states that have handed monopoly privileges to public sector union officials and states that have resisted the pressure. In any discussion of state and municipal debt and the tough choices ahead, they must include the issues of growing government union monopoly power and the impact on the states, municipalities, and most important, taxpayers.